Hello, this is Paul, and for the next hour I'll be reading from the Democrat Chronicle, the Rochester newspaper, Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. This is the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. This is page 1. Severe weather predicted for today in New York. Storms, damaging winds, and isolated tornado possible. And this is from the New York Connect Team USA Today Network. Parts of western and north central New York could see severe thunderstorms during the afternoon and evening, July 21, with the primary threat being damaging winds, according to the latest forecast. The National Weather Service said the region is under a risk for severe thunderstorms and locally heavy rainfall. Storms are expected to develop the afternoon of July 21 and continue into the evening hours. The strongest storms could produce damaging wind gusts capable of downing trees and power lines. Forecasters said an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. Residents should monitor weather alerts and be prepared for rapidly changing conditions as storms move through the region. Some thunderstorms may produce periods of heavy rainfall, which could lead to isolated flash flooding and water pooling in areas with poor drainage, according to the forecast. After the storms move through, cooler conditions with lingering scattered showers are expected. The next article, from page 1. Feds give $15 million to Laser Tech Initiative. UR's, University of Rochester's, Stellar Engine Center for Regional Push. A $15 million federal investment will fuel the next era of laser technology research, development, and manufacturing in Rochester and the Finger Lakes. The University of Rochester's Stellar, and they're spelling it capital STELLAR engine, was awarded the funds as part of the U.S. National Science Foundation's Regional Innovation Engines Program. Stellar. Federal officials announced this on July 14th. The program was designed to accelerate the domestic development of critical technologies through innovative clusters positioned across the U.S. The Stellar engine will bring together colleges, research institutions, and economic development partners to expand laser technology research, workforce training, and manufacturing efforts in Western New York to a scale that cannot go globally. Most laser manufacturing takes place overseas, and there is a critical shortage of skilled U.S. workers in the optics and photonics industry. The university's proposal said a sustained investment in this area would help strengthen America's technological edge and reduce reliance on foreign materials. Lasers are used in everything from smartphones to national defense, organizers said. Meanwhile, more than 150 optics, photonics, imaging, and laser supply chain companies already call Rochester and the Finger Lakes home, making the region ripe for innovation. The same region that led revolutions in photography, xerography, optical physics, and precision optics is ideally positioned to lead the future of laser technology, said Thomas Brown, the principal investigator for the Stellar project. Pound for pound, Rochester's brainpower in optics, photonics, imaging, and laser technology is unmatched, and we are immensely grateful for the support to help lead a national resurgence in laser technology. The project's key partners include the Institute of Optics and Laboratory for Laser Energetics at the University of Rochester, Monroe Community College, Rochester Institute of Technology, Next Corps, Greater Rochester Enterprise, and AmeriComp. The Stellar engine will receive $15 million from NSF over the next 2 years, on top of a $16 million state investment over the next 6 years. Additional funding from NSF is possible. Our next article from the Democrat Chronicle, Tuesday, July 21st, 2026, is titled, Meteorite That Crashed in New Jersey Has Primitive Roots. 2 years after a meteorite crash landed in a New Jersey home, researchers have released findings that there was alien world chemistry inside it, according to a new study. The study, published in the journal Science Advances on July 15th, said that the meteorite, which came from a rock that entered the atmosphere and was spotted over New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Pennsylvania in 2024, contained preserved pieces of the asteroid it stemmed from. A forensic study of the fragments revealed that they contained preserved bits from near the surface of a primitive asteroid where it experienced concentrated salty fluids, a process not previously known from this type of protoplanet world, Peter Jennisons, the lead author, said, and a meteor astronomer from the SETI Institute and NASA's Ames Research Center in California, Silicon Valley, said in a statement. The study looked at the meteorite, which weighed more than 2 pounds when it shot through the roof of a house in Hillsborough, New Jersey, 48 miles southwest of New York City, according to a news release published by the SETI Institute. SETI, S-E-T-I, is a nonprofit that explores origins of life, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and the mysteries of the cosmos. Mike Zelensky, the paper's co-author and a meteorology professor at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, and his colleague Yang Mi Han found small, salt-rich fragments of the meteor, suggesting it originated from an area near the asteroid's surface where water would have evaporated and caused salt to concentrate in the area. The discovery is not definitive proof of extraterrestrial life, but it could bring researchers closer to finding how life originated on Earth. Salt brines that are highly concentrated can create molecules crucial to life on Earth, the news release said. And the findings on the meteorite could provide researchers with new insight into how asteroid chemistry shaped life on Earth. The meteorite, a space rock that survives its trip through the planet's atmosphere and lands on the ground, came from a rock the size of a heavy airline bag, the news release said. It was traveling at 32,000 miles per hour, moving well beyond the speed of sound, when it entered Earth's atmosphere on July 16, 2024. The rock also entered the atmosphere at a higher speed than the Artemis II crew, which reached an estimated 25,000 miles per hour during re-entry, according to USA Today's previous reporting. It was going so fast that it caused a sonic boom as it passed the Statue of Liberty. Around 16 people in New York and New Jersey felt the shockwave, according to the SETI Institute. The owner of the home where the meteorite crashed, who was not identified by the SETI Institute, said he collected pieces of it while wearing disposable gloves and using aluminum foil to place fragments of the meteorite into glass jars. I was at home at the time, heard a loud crash, and found a hole in the ceiling of the master bedroom, the owner said in a statement. I smelled a strong sulfur-like odor and saw many black fragments along with debris and black dust that covered my bed, carpet, and surrounding area. That's the end of that article. Our next article is entitled, U.S. Housing Market Down. Single-family starts, building permits, drop as relief from new law still ahead. Dateline, Washington. U.S. single-family home building fell for a third straight month in June, while permits for future construction dropped to the lowest level in 10 months, weighed down by higher mortgage rates and a glut of unsold new homes on the market. Home building is also being constrained by rising costs for land and materials. Builders and economists said it would take a while for the housing market to experience benefits from a bipartisan housing affordability legislation recently passed by Congress, which, among other provisions, waives or speeds up environmental reviews for construction projects. The bill became law despite President Trump not signing it, demanding that an unrelated voting bill be passed. The potential uplift to housing starts from streamlining environmental reviews, easing rules on manufactured housing, and encouraging zoning reform will take time to filter through, said Samuel Tomes, chief U.S. economist at Pantheon Macroeconomics. Real residential investment will drag modestly on GDP growth over the coming quarters. Single-family housing starts, which account for the bulk of home building, slipped 0.2% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 895,000 units. The Commerce Department Census Bureau stated on July 17th. Starts fell in the Northeast, the South, and Midwest region, but rose in the West. Single-family home building dropped 3.2% year-on-year in June. Permits for future construction of single-family homes dropped 2.4% in June to a rate of 871,000 units, the lowest level since August 2025. They fell 0.2% year-over-year in June. There is limited scope for a strong rebound in permits, with the elevated mortgage rates sidelining potential homebuyers. The rate on the popular 30-year fixed mortgage has increased by nearly 60 basis points since the United States and Israel attacked Iran at the end of February, hitting an 11th-month high of 6.55% last week, data from mortgage finance agency Freddie Mac showed. A National Association of Home Builders survey, July 16th, showed sentiment among single-family home builders remained depressed in July. Though there is a national housing shortage, especially for starter homes, the stock of unsold new homes on the market is back near levels last seen in late 2007 because of poor spring selling season this year. It felt like builders were finally getting a handle on their inventories, but the clunker of a spring selling season set them back again, said Stephen Stanley, U.S. economist at Santander U.S. Capital Markets. As a result, while the level of real residential construction activity should level off soon, the extended downturn that has been in place for 2 years may extend the weakness for another quarter or two. Starts for housing projects with 5 units or more, a very volatile segment, soared 76.3% to a rate of 513,000 units in June. Multifamily housing starts increased 19.3% year over year. Overall, housing starts jumped 19.0% to a pace of 1.427 million units. They increased 3.5% year on year in June. Building permits for multifamily housing projects dropped 4.9% to a rate of 445,000 units last month. Overall, building permits fell 3% to a rate of 1.36 million units. They declined 2.3% year over year in June. A separate report from the Labor Department on July 17th showed an unexpected rise in import prices in June, with the annual increase in imported inflation the largest in nearly 4 years. That ended last week's run of favorable inflation readings. Import prices increased 0.3% last month after advancing 1.7% in May, the Labor Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics stated. In the 12 months through June, import prices surged 7.1%. That was the biggest advance since August 2022, and followed a 6.6% increase in May. The monthly increase in import prices bucked declines in producer and consumer prices in June, which were attributed to the retreat in oil prices as a fragile ceasefire between the United States and Iran took hold. Prices of imported fuel oil fell 0.4% last month after rising 12.6% in May. They jumped 44.1% year on year in June. Imported food prices eased 0.2%, excluding food and fuel. Import prices increased 0.4% after advancing 0.8%. The so-called core imported inflation increased 4.6% in the 12 months through June. Core imported inflation was boosted by 0.4% increase in imported capital goods prices and reflecting a strong demand for technology products as businesses ramped up investment in artificial intelligence. Prices for imported consumer goods, excluding automobiles, rose 0.3%. And that's the end of that article. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Democrat Chronicle on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Services. Our next article is entitled, Data Centers Face Protests in 42 States. 14% back them in their community, polls find. Opponents of the rapid build-out of data centers held 142 protests across 42 states on July 18th in the first nationwide effort to channel anger at the AI infrastructure expansion that has ramped up over the past year and roiled local politics. The protests were coordinated by Humans First, co-founded by a former leader of the modern-day Tea Party. The Tea Party was a right-wing populist movement that emerged in 2009 to protest what it saw as excessive taxation and government overreach. Protesters rallied against what Humans First calls the unaccountable build-out of data centers and unacceptable infringement on our liberty. In Fredericksburg, Virginia, one young man carried a sign reading, "We thrive on water, not data." In Atlanta, a small knot of protesters wielded signs reading, "Georgia never voted for hyperscale AI data centers." Nationwide and city-specific counts of protesters were not immediately available, said Chris Barron, president at Right Turn Strategies, who is handling press relations for Humans First. Attendance was lower than expected in some rural areas, and major cities such as Atlanta, local organizers told Reuters. But Humans First praised the efforts of community activists. "We were thrilled with the turnout," Barron said. Data center opposition is among the few issues uniting Americans, with just a third of Americans approving of the pace of data center construction in the United States, according to a June Reuters poll survey. Only 14% of respondents would support a data center being built in their community to support artificial intelligence projects for technology firms such as Meta, Alphabet, Amazon, Microsoft, and xAI. The data center industry is continuing to work with policymakers, stakeholders, and residents to ensure data centers strengthen, not strain, the areas where they operate, while mitigating any negative impacts to households and businesses, said Josh Levy, president of the Data Center Coalition, the industry's association and lobbying group. Although Humans First co-founder Amy Kramer compared her current efforts to the Tea Party's movement's early days in 2009, she said the anger against data centers is nonpartisan. They just woke up one day and found out they're going to have this monstrosity in their community, and they don't want it, said Kramer, who predicted data centers will be defining issues for midterm elections on November 3rd and the 2028 presidential race. Kramer has criticized Republicans for giving big tech a free pass, but she said some organizers also said they do not support policies like moratoriums on data center approvals, like the ones adopted by the Democratic state of New York. Demands made by organizers from the groups involved also included transparency in the development process, protection of resources, and environmental health, community benefits such as the creation of well-paying union jobs, and a way to hold developers accountable if they break their promises. The Republican stronghold of Texas, a hot spot for data center development, hosted 18 protest events, the most of any state. The swing state of Georgia had 11 rallies. Democratic-dominated California had 8, while the swing state of Pennsylvania and the Republican-leaning states of Florida and Indiana came in at 7 each. The July 18 protest, one of a number of similar actions this month, attracted about a dozen participants who traveled from smaller Georgia towns where the largest data centers are being built. Left-leaning Ivan DeSalle, age 54, helped lead a protest in the California desert's Imperial County, where a proposed data center project could use 260 million gallons of water per year from the Colorado River. "It's dystopian that you would use this much fresh water for AI," said Del Sol, who later added around 50 people attended despite temperatures that soared above 100 degrees. Although water is frequently cited as a top public concern, especially in water-stressed regions, the data center industry says its water use is not as significant as other industries. In Tyler, Texas, first-time activist and self-described political nomad Eva Cardona organized a protest that also drew about a dozen people. "I've been hearing about unregulated AI and the rapid growth that was alarming me. I wanted to do something more hands-on than just your standard Facebook post," said Cardona. Our next article is entitled, "Pentagon IDs Service Members Killed in Iran." A 17th U.S. service member has been killed in the war with Iran, U.S. Central Command confirmed on social media in northern Iraq, July 18th, during the controlled detonation of an unexploded ordnance from a downed Iranian one-way attack drone. That service member had not yet been publicly identified, but the Department of Defense announced the names of 2 American service members who were killed in an Iranian attack on a U.S. airbase in Jordan on July 17th. First Lieutenant Tyler James Feehan, 25, of Awa Beach, Hawaii, was assigned to 2nd Battalion, 55th Air Defense Artillery Regiment, an Army unit based in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Private Isabella Gonzalez, 19, of Carrollton, Texas, was assigned to 1st Battalion, 57th Air Defense Artillery Regiment, an active-duty U.S. Army short-range air defense unit in Ansbach, Germany. They were both identified as current deceased members. Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis said they were imposing a naval blockade on Saudi Arabia, opening a new front against the United States, and widening the threat to global energy supplies and trade. There was no immediate response from Saudi Arabia. Iran had been pressing the Houthis to close the Bab el-Mandeb gateway to the Red Sea if the United States continued to attack Iranian power infrastructure. The full disclosure of the strait could cut the global oil supply by 7%, as it would leave most Saudi oil exports unable to leave the region. The disruption would add to the massive cut to global oil flows from the war in the Gulf, which has already reduced shipments by 10% of global supply. Still, both the United States and Iran have signaled that diplomacy is not off the table. Iran's foreign ministry said regional mediators had drafted proposals seeking to prevent further escalations. On July 19, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the United States remains willing to negotiate. But the United States launched a 9th consecutive night of strikes against Iran. "We hit them very hard again tonight, and we did that in honor of the probably three great patriots," said Trump at a news conference July 19th at Joint Base Andrews. Multiple Arab Gulf countries reported attacks. The Kuwait Army announced that it was confronting missile and drone attacks from Iran, warning that the sounds of explosions were the result of aerial intercepts. The latest escalation began after the breakdown of an interim ceasefire agreement. Tensions over control of the Strait of Hormuz continue to intensify, and the renewed fighting is again threatening commercial shipping as Iranian forces target vessels and the United States enforces its blockade of the country's ports. Greek shipping company Dynacom Tankers said two of its managed vessels were hit by projectiles of unknown origin July 20 off the coast of Oman. All crew members were safe, the company said in statements. Greek maritime security company Maersk said the ships were transiting via the U.S.-facilitated Southern Hormuz corridor. And that's the end of that article. Turning to the general sports page. Ortiz Grand Slam powers Red Wings sweep of jumbo shrimp. Abimelec Ortiz's Grand Slam headlined a 6-run third inning, and the Rochester Red Wings routed the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp 11-2 on Sunday at ESL Ballpark. Scoreless through 2, Rochester broke the game open in the third. Riley Adams worked a walk, Caden Wallace followed with an infield single, and Maxwell Romero Jr. ripped a sharp RBI single to right, bringing Adams around with the night's first run. Christian Franklin drew a walk to reload the bases, setting the stage for Ortiz, who launched his 17th home run of the season, a drive to right center field that cleared the bases and pushed the Red Wings ahead 5-0. Rochester kept piling on in the fifth. Andrew Pinckney walked and moved to third when Trey Lipscomb bounced a single to right. Joey Weimer followed with a line drive double to right, scoring Pinckney and pushing Lipscomb to third for a 7-0 lead. Adams then singled to center to bring Lipscomb home, and after a pitching change, Wallace punched another single to right, driving in Weimer to make it 9-0. Jacksonville finally broke through in the sixth when Kemp Alderman doubled and later scored on Gage Miller's RBI single to left. Rochester answered in the bottom half. Ortiz walked, Brady House and Pinckney followed with singles to right, and Lipscomb's RBI force-out brought Ortiz home for a 10th run. Adams capped his 2 RBI night with a sacrifice fly to left, scoring House to make it 11-1. Alderman's RBI single in the 9th produced Jacksonville's second run. Luis Perales followed opener Zach Penrod and allowed 1 run on 5 hits over 4 2/3 innings, while striking out 7 to earn the win and improve to 4-4. Jack St. Clair closed out a staff effort that limited the Jumbo Shrimp to 8 hits and struck out 12. Rochester collected 12 hits, with Pinckney, House, and Wallace each recording multiple hits. Ortiz finished with 4 RBIs as the Red Wings completed a 3-game sweep of Jacksonville. That's the end of that article. And to remind you, you are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Democrat Chronicle on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next article in the sports page is entitled, Bills Have Their Workhorse, but Too Much Use Could Be an Issue. When the Buffalo Bills selected running back James Cook in the second round of the 2022 NFL Draft, it was like buying a used luxury car that had been repossessed less than a year into the lease agreement. Cook had almost no mileage on his tires, and his engine had hardly been pushed during his career at the University of Georgia. Across parts of 4 seasons and 50 games, Cook carried just 230 times for 1,503 yards and 14 TDs, and caught 67 passes for 730 yards and 6 scores for the Bulldogs. He wasn't much busier in his rookie season with Buffalo when he played behind incumbent starter Devon Singletary, and was on the field for just 25% of the offensive snaps and had 110 touchdowns, totaling 687 yards. But Cook's usage went way up to 281 touches in 2023, when he took over for Singletary, and after a slight decline to 239 in 2024, Cook became one of the busiest players in the NFL in 2025 on the way to the league rushing title. His 342 touches, not touchdowns, touches the ball. His 342 touches were the fourth most in the NFL, and that included 309 rushing attempts, which were the eighth most in team history. They resulted in 1,621 ground yards and 1,912 yards from scrimmage, which were fourth most in the league. And that was with Cook sitting out most of the meaningless season finale game against the Jets. Cook thrived with the workload, but it is fair to ask whether the Bills can continue to lean on him to that extent, as he's about to enter his age 27 and playing a position where the life expectancy is shorter than other positions on the team. I don't think you ever go into each game with a mindset of like, hey, this is how many carries he's going to have, said Coach Joe Brady, who took over as the offensive coordinator midway through the 2023 season and tapped into the run game more than his fired predecessor, Ken Dorsey. But it does pile up throughout the season, right? And I give him a lot of credit. You go back to the offseason he had last year that he was able to withstand, and that you know he was going to go into it with how many times he was going to run the ball, and it wasn't like he was not taking hits, said Coach Joe Brady. For comparison, LaShawn McCoy's heaviest workload in Buffalo was 287 carries in 2017. Fred Jackson's was 237 carries in 2008, and Marshawn Lynch was 280 carries in 2007. You have to go back to 2005 to find a Bills running back who surpassed Cook's total last season when Willis McGee carried 325 times. There have been only 10 seasons where a Bills running back surpassed 300 carries. Thurman Thomas set the record with 355 in 1993 and had 312 carries in 1992. O.J. Simpson and Travis Henry each had 2 seasons north of 300, and McGahee, Cook, Antoine Smith, and Joe Cribbs had the others. Cook never seemed to slow down. In back-to-back weeks in December, he ran for 107 yards against the Patriots and 117 against the Browns, then finished with 117 more in the playoff loss to Denver. I know it was asked a lot last season, Brady said, of all the carries Cook received. I would love to be able to get Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, and Frank Gore Jr. involved, and I hope those opportunities come up this year. James was just playing at such a high level last year. He was in such a rhythm and a routine that I felt confident in him being able to uphold that, said Brady. Davis suffered the most from Cook's playing increase. As a rookie in 2024, Davis carried 113 times for 442 yards and caught 17 passes for 189 yards. But last year, he had just 58 rushing attempts for 285 yards and 10 receptions for 86 yards. Johnson's 2024 and 2025 numbers were similar because he continued to be utilized in third down and or passing situations. But this season, it might behoove Brady to find a way to get Davis a little more involved to preserve Cook if the Bills make a deep run into the playoffs. Can the Bills keep James Cook fresh for the long haul? I think that's probably a week-to-week thing, said new Bills offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael, though the decision won't be his with Brady still calling the plays. I think that's something I've experienced in other places as well. Just making sure the week-to-week workload doesn't get too overbearing, because you're going to need these guys down the stretch of the season. Carmichael had a similar situation during his many years in New Orleans under coach Sean Payton, first with Mark Ingram and later with Alvin Kamara, but Ingram's career high for carries was 288 and Kamara's was 296. Cook's older brother, Dalvin, provides a cautionary tale for what overwork can do, and remember, they share some DNA. Dalvin earned Pro Bowl invitations 4 straight years, from 2019 to 2022, playing for the Vikings, where he averaged 311 touches. But he played only 2 more seasons in the NFL with the Jets in 2023 and the Ravens and Cowboys in 2024, and was out of the league by age 29. With Cook's 4-year contract extension just kicking in this season, preservation might be something they consider in order to get him to the end of that deal as a still healthy and impactful player. And that is the end of that article. Our next article is entitled, America's Fittest Cities Revealed. People in the nation's fittest cities are more likely to take brisk walks or routinely hit the gym. They also have lower rates of obesity and chronic disease. But cities that cultivate a healthy community play an equally important role. Cities that consistently rank among the nation's fittest on the American College of Sports Medicine's American Fitness Index promote physical activities with parks, trails, access to public transportation, and strong environmental marks. Even among the healthiest cities, food insecurity is a growing concern, according to the report. Our next article is entitled, Burnham Becomes UK Prime Minister. New Prime Minister takes over with vow of stability. Dateline London. Same to-do list, similar politics, but an upgrade of sorts. Quicker on his feet, more fluent in public, and more attuned to a country impatient for visible progress on immigration and the cost of living. That's how many British officials and analysts describe Andy Burnham, who on July 20th officially became Britain's 7th Prime Minister in a decade after meeting with King Charles III at Buckingham Palace. He took over from Keir Starmer as the leader of the United Kingdom's centre-left Labour Party. He is also the 7th Prime Minister to share number 10 Downing Street with Larry the Cat, officially known as the Chief Mousier, since David Cameron's Conservative government brought him there in 2011. Burnham, 56 years old, arrived in the job pledging political stability and a focus on domestic priorities. Let us make this the moment Britain starts to believe again, Burnham said, speaking outside number 10 Downing Street. He said his appointment was a moment for reflection and a new resolution. Unlike in the United States, British voters elect a party, not a specific leader, allowing for some latitude in who runs the country between general elections. The next British general election is scheduled to be held no later than August 15, 2029. Starmer stepped aside less because his government had failed to make progress. Its gains on the economy and public services were modest, but real. Then, because he struggled to explain those gains in languages that captured the mood of a doom-scrolling age. Timothy Bale, a professor of politics at Queen Mary University of London, said Burnham has shown himself better able than Starmer to connect with voters and project hope and confidence. But Burnham faces the same central questions as his predecessor, Bale said. How to get the economy growing faster. How to improve vital areas like health and defense when there's no money around. How to signal that the government's getting a grip on irregular immigration. And how to deal with an erratic U.S. president in Donald Trump. The immediate trigger for Starmer's resignation came in May, when Labour suffered heavy losses in local elections, as Nigel Farage's Reform UK party made major gains. Though Labour won a landslide in 2024, polls showed Starmer was one of the least popular British prime ministers of modern times, partly because voters found his personality underwhelming. He was a polished, lawyerly technocrat who prized process, order, and stability. Yet Starmer built a working relationship with Trump and secured a lower U.S. tariff rate for Britain than the president imposed on many other countries. Even after Trump attacked Starmer on social media for refusing to join the war in Iran and for his approach to immigration or energy, Starmer found a way to largely keep the president on his side. Burnham, the former mayor of Greater Manchester, offers a clear contrast. An emotive communicator, he presents himself as a man of the people politician. He has promised to give people breathing space on the cost of living and make a dynamic start to his premiership by delivering changes to people's lives as soon as possible. He has proposed nationalizing water and energy companies, launching a sweeping program of low-cost government funding home building, restoring the vitality of Britain's main streets, and improving education by devolving power from London to local authorities. But Burnham has not explained exactly how he will deliver that program, while confronting the same tight fiscal constraints that limited Starmer. The government also faces spiraling welfare costs and urgent demands for investment in defense and public infrastructure. He's much more electable than Starmer. He speaks human, he's got charisma, he knows how to get out there and shake hands, engage with people and fire up local party members, Matt Beach said. But let's be clear, Andy Burnham is not Tony Blair. Blair remains Labour's longest-serving prime minister and the only leader to deliver the party 3 consecutive general election victories, governing from 1997 to 2007. Starmer was in a difficult position, Beach said. I think Burnham will be too. Burnham, however, is no political novice. Britain's 59th prime minister first served as a junior minister under Blair. Under Blair's successor, Gordon Brown, he became chief secretary to the Treasury, cultural secretary, and health secretary. He has 3 adult children with his wife, Marie Frances von Heel, a publicity-shy marketing executive. The pair met while studying English literature at the University of Cambridge. Burnham ran twice for the Labour leadership and lost both times. Those defeats ultimately propelled him toward the Greater Manchester mayor's race, where he won praise for attracting investment and transforming the region's public transportation system. His national profile rose during the COVID-19 pandemic, when he accused Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Conservative government of treating Northern England with contempt during a dispute over regional lockdown restrictions. The confrontation earned him the name King of the North. Despite his King of the North image, Burnham is a pragmatic individual, said a senior British official who knows him well and who worked closely with Starmer at Downing Street. The official, who spoke on condition of anonymity, described Burnham as a seasoned political operator who knows how to adjust his style to work effectively with almost any world leader, especially Trump. Burnham may already be demonstrating that pragmatic approach. In late June, Trump described him as an extremely liberal politician who probably won't open up the North Sea to further oil and gas drilling. The BBC has since reported that Burnham plans to announce new North Sea drilling. That's a move perhaps designated to placate Trump, and that appears to break a Labour campaign pledge. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Democrat and Chronicle on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next article is entitled Data. Wildfire seasons have grown in ferocity. A new heat wave will bring another round of scorching temperatures as fires in the West continue to grow in what already has been a deadly fire season. The Babylon fire in Utah has spread to 100,000 acres, and the Aspen Acres fire in Colorado is nearing that size. This follows what had been a historically warm winter, turned into a historically warm first half of the year. So far, 2026 is the nation's second warmest in 132 years of record keeping. USA Today analyzed decades of wildfire data compiled by federal agencies, which includes fires of at least 1,000 acres for the western United States and at least 500 acres for the eastern United States, to see how things have changed. There's certainly never been a wildfire without ignition. There's never been a wildfire without fuel. So climate is not the only factor. but we do have multiple lines of evidence that climate change is contributing to the increase in areas burned, said Noah Diefenbach, professor and senior fellow at Stanford's Doerr School of Sustainability. The hardest hit states are Washington, Oregon, and California. These have large forests that generate a lot of smoke. They have also experienced a loss of winter snowfall. From 1984 to 2024, more than 16,000 large wildfires have burned 179 million acres, an area larger than Texas or that of the 15 smallest states combined. Rhode Island, Delaware, Connecticut, Hawaii, New Jersey, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maryland, West Virginia, South Carolina, Maine, Indiana, Kentucky, and Virginia. And the amount of land burned is not equally distributed over the years. By the early 2020s, the average annual acres burned had nearly tripled compared with the 1990s. A 2025 study found that, depending on the region, climate change can account for 1/3 to as much as 80% of the burned area in the western United States from 1992 to 2020. Wildfire smoke is a major contributor to air pollution and is slowing or even reversing in some regions. It's either slowing or reversing in some areas, decades of progress of clean air. About half of the smoke generated between 1997 and 2020 could be linked to climate change. So that's quite a large number, said Loretta Mickley, an atmospheric chemist at Harvard and co-author of the study. If we zero in more recently from 2010 to 2020, those numbers increase. Though summer is still the predominant wildfire season, the average acreage burned in winter, spring, and fall has increased too, according to the analysis. In December 2021, the Marshall Fire erupted and tore through Colorado communities, leading to large-scale evacuations. It became the most destructive fire in the state, as more than 1,000 homes were lost. More recently, in March, the Morrell Fire ignited in Nebraska and quickly became the state's largest, reaching over 640,000 acres. Our next article is entitled, FDA Still Seeks Cause of Cyclopsoriasis Outbreak. Federal health officials are continuing to test food items for Cyclospora after walking back its statement about discovering a match in one sample of iceberg lettuce for the parasite that has caused thousands of people nationwide to fall sick. After a lettuce sample from Taylor Farms that was not part of the company's recall tested positive for Cyclospora July 18th, the Food and Drug Administration said July 19th that the test was found to be a false positive after further review. As of July 19, there were no confirmed positive results for samples tested for Cyclospora, the FDA said. However, the agency said it is still working with Taylor Farms as it continues to investigate the source of the outbreak. To be clear, at this moment, FDA has not identified a single positive product test result for Cyclospora, the company said. Still, Taylor Farms on July 17 issued and has since completed an expansive voluntary recall of iceberg lettuce products from central Mexico as a result of the outbreak and investigation, which initially connected the illness to lettuce from Taylor Farms of Mexico, sold in part through Taco Bell's locations in 5 states. Cases of cyclosporiasis, the illness caused by the parasite, have surged in more than 30 states in recent weeks. People who contract the illness usually have explosive diarrhea and other severe gastrointestinal issues. On July 17, Taylor Farms recalled iceberg lettuce sourced from central Mexico because it could be contaminated with Cyclospora. It recalled both lettuce products served at Taco Bell restaurants as well as certain bag lettuce products sold at Walmart under the Market Side brand. Taylor Farms said in a statement that none of its other products, including those available for purchase, are involved in the recall. Our thoughts remain with everyone who has fallen ill in this outbreak, the company said. We are committed to working with public health authorities as the ongoing outbreak investigation continues. The recalled Walmart products are the only retail items that have been pulled from shelves. The rest of the products were distributed for food service. The health and safety of our customers is a top priority, Walmart said in a statement July 18th. The affected items include 12-ounce and 24-ounce market-side iceberg salad bags and 8-ounce and 16-ounce market-side shredded lettuce. According to the FDA, they were sold at Walmart stores in 15 states. The products can be identified by, and this is in quotations, best if used by dates, ranging from July 18 through August 3rd. Anyone with the affected products should discard or return them for a refund. Taco Bell, which according to federal officials used iceberg lettuce connected to the outbreak, said July 17th that it pulled the product from restaurants. Based on ongoing conversations with public health officials, and out of an abundance of caution, Taco Bell worked swiftly to voluntarily remove the product from restaurants, and the affected ingredient has been removed from our supply chain nationwide, the company said in a statement. And that's the end of that article. Our next article, Samsung cuts impact workers in New Jersey and Texas. Samsung's decision to shift SEA headquarters is striking because SEA employees in New Jersey moved to new offices less than a year ago. Samsung Electronics has cut jobs at its U.S. display, phone, and other consumer electronics operations, affecting workers mainly in New Jersey and Texas, according to documents and two people familiar with the matter. The South Korean tech giant said on July 19th in a statement to Reuters that 739 roles in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, have been affected by plans by Samsung Electronics America, that's SEA, which is focused on consumer electronics and does not include chips, to move their headquarters to Texas. A majority of people affected have received relocation offers, but others were let go, it added, without elaborating. At SEA's Plano, Texas office, some 1,000 workers, including staff in its mobile division, have been let go, according to one person who said they were among the employees laid off. Sources declined to be identified because of the sensitivity of the issue. The cuts, though related to the shift in headquarters, underscore diverging fortunes within the South Korean tech giant, with its chip division skyrocketing to record profits, but its consumer electronics units languishing as chip costs surge. Samsung's decision to shift SEA headquarters is striking because SEA employees in New Jersey only moved to new offices with much fanfare less than a year ago. SEA employs about 1,200 workers in New Jersey, according to a press release by U.S. Representative Josh Grothenheimer, who attended an event to mark the opening of the new offices in September. While the precise extent of the layoffs at SEA could not be learned, documents seen by Reuters show that the unit notified some employees on June 30th of an enterprise-wide reduction in force, adding that there were a significant number of impacts. LinkedIn posts reviewed by Reuters also show more than 30 workers, including senior sales and marketing officials in both Texas and New Jersey, as well as a few other U.S. locations, said they have been let go or left the company over the past couple of weeks. Details about the job losses at SEA have not previously been reported. Samsung said in its statement that the shift of SEA's headquarters may lead to changes in our workforce structure, such as employees who are unable to relocate or certain functions that are optimized to ensure our roles align to key business priorities. Samsung has flagged it will likely post a 19-fold jump in second quarter profits on strong AI-driven chip demand. It also announced plans last month to invest hundreds of billions of dollars in new chip plants. Its mobile division, however, is expected to post its first ever loss as it grapples with intense competition from Apple. Chinese rivals like TCL and Hinsei are also challenging Samsung in televisions and home appliances. Higher chip costs due to the AI boom have weighed on earnings for all of its consumer electronic products. Samsung's job cuts mirror moves by other global firms, including Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta, which have shed jobs while redirecting spending towards AI infrastructure. Texas is already home to Samsung's chip factories and a mobile hub in Plano. Samsung workers are concerned the recent job cuts could be followed by additional layoffs and a consolidation of the company's appliance, home entertainment, and mobile division as it focuses resources on chips, a current SEA employee said. Samsung said in its statement there currently are no broad global restructuring underway within its consumer products division. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the July 21st, 2026 issue of the Democrat Chronicle. Your reader has been Paul. Thank you for listening. Take care.